The rope goes taut, and your lungs are already burning. 40 meters down, the light is nearly gone. Cold water presses against your ears. Somewhere below, in the wreckage of a ship that sank 2,000 years ago, something is waiting. It's 1900. A crew of Greek sponge divers, blown off course by a storm, has anchored near a tiny island called Antikythera, a speck of rock between Crete and the Greek mainland. One diver goes down to check the seabed. He comes back up screaming. Not from pain, from what he saw. A field of bronze arms and marble faces, scattered across the ocean floor, a graveyard of statues, staring up through the water like the dead. For the next year, divers risk their lives pulling treasure from that wreck: bronze warriors, marble philosophers, jewelry, coins. 2 divers are paralyzed by decompression sickness. 1 dies. Among the haul, almost unnoticed, sits a corroded lump of bronze the size of a large book. Nobody realizes it yet. But that lump of corrosion is about to rewrite the history of human technology. The lump sits in a museum in Athens, mostly ignored for nearly a year. Then it splits. As the wet bronze dries out, it cracks open on its own, and inside, an archaeologist named Valerios Stais notices something that should not be there. A gear. A precise, hand-cut bronze gear with triangular teeth fused into the corrosion. This wreck is dated to somewhere around 70 to 60 BC, ancient Greece, a time of philosophers, playwrights, and marble temples. Not a time, as far as anyone knew, of machines. Stais makes a claim that other scholars find almost impossible to believe. This fragment of bronze is part of a scientific instrument, an astronomical calculating device. Most of his colleagues dismiss it. Geared machines this precise, they argue, do not belong in the ancient world. Nothing like this appears anywhere else in the historical record, not for another 1,000 years. The fragment is set aside. It will take more than half a century before anyone takes it seriously again. In 1951, a British physicist named Derek de Solla Price becomes obsessed with the object gathering dust in the Athens Museum. He spends over a decade studying it, using gamma rays and X-rays to peer inside the corroded bronze without destroying it. What he finds defies explanation. Not one gear, dozens. At least 30 separate bronze gears, some smaller than a coin, interlocking with a precision that would not look out of place in a Swiss watch. Except this watch predates Switzerland by 17 centuries. In 1974, Price publishes his findings in a paper called Gears from the Greeks. His conclusion: this is a mechanical model of the cosmos, a device built to calculate the positions of the sun, the moon, and possibly the planets, for any date the user chose, past or future. An analog computer. Built in ancient Greece. Price dies in 1983, convinced the object is more advanced than anyone has admitted, but even his X-rays cannot show everything. The full machine is still hiding inside the corrosion. It will take 21st century technology to finally see it clearly. In 2005, a team of scientists and engineers builds something extraordinary just to study this one object: a custom 8-ton X-ray machine, capable of producing 3-dimensional scans of the fragments in microscopic detail. The project is called the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project. What the scans reveal stuns everyone involved. Buried inside the bronze are thousands of tiny inscribed letters, Greek text, some sections smaller than the print on a modern medicine bottle. Instructions, labels, a user manual carved in bronze for a machine built before the Roman Empire existed. The gears interlock in a system so complex it takes years to fully map. There is a mechanism so precise it borders on absurd. A pin and slot device, two gears stacked slightly off-center from each other, where a small pin on one wheel slides through a groove cut into the other. That single detail, a pin riding in a slot, perfectly reproduces the moon's changing speed as it moves along its elliptical orbit. It is a mechanical solution to a law of physics that astronomers would not describe mathematically for another 1,600 years. This is not a calendar. It is a working model of the sky. Turn the hand crank on the side, and the entire device comes alive. A dial on the front rotates to show the position of the sun and moon against the zodiac on any given day. A small sphere, painted half black and half silver, rotates to show the moon's actual phase, full, crescent, or new, matching what someone standing outside on that exact night would see in the sky above them. On the back, two spiral dials track two of the most important calendars in the ancient Mediterranean world. One predicts eclipses, both solar and lunar, years in advance, using a 223-month cycle known to Babylonian astronomers. The other tracks the 4-year cycle of Pan-Hellenic games, including the Olympics, meaning this machine could tell its owner not just where the stars would be, but when the next Olympic Games would be held. Ancient Greek writers described machines like this only in myth and legend. The Roman philosopher Cicero, writing decades after this device was built, mentions a bronze sphere built by the Greek inventor Archimedes, a device said to model the motions of the sun, moon, and planets. Historians assumed, for centuries, that Cicero was exaggerating. They may have been wrong. Here is the part that should not be possible. After this device was built, nothing of comparable scale or ambition appears anywhere in the historical record, not for well over 1,000 years. Fragments of the knowledge survive. In Byzantium, around 500 AD, someone builds a small portable sundial with a set of gears calculating the phases of the moon, a device far simpler than this one, but proof the tradition did not vanish entirely. In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars like al-Biruni designed geared astrolabes of extraordinary sophistication, tracking lunar and solar calendars with real precision. Centuries later, it is the translation of these Islamic texts into Latin that helps reintroduce complex gearing to medieval Europe. But a machine built to model the entire visible sky at once, sun, moon, eclipses, the calendar of the games, that ambition seems to disappear. The tradition of precision engineering at this scale doesn't vanish. It goes quiet. It survives in fragments, passed hand to hand through Byzantine workshops and Islamic observatories, waiting 13 centuries before European cathedral engineers build astronomical clocks that finally approach what this one bronze machine could already do. Either the skill to build something this ambitious was never widespread to begin with, the work of one genius, or one small workshop, whose knowledge died with them. Or it was widespread, and every other example was lost to time, melted down for its bronze, or simply never found. We do not know which. What we do know is this: for well over 1,000 years, no one built anything as complete as the machine sitting at the bottom of a Greek shipyard. So who built it? The ship itself gives us a clue. It was a Roman cargo vessel, likely sailing from the eastern Mediterranean toward Rome, loaded with looted Greek treasure, probably around 70 to 60 BC, during a period when Roman generals were stripping Greek cities of their art and wealth. Some historians point to the island of Rhodes, a major center of astronomy and engineering in the ancient world, home to the astronomer Hipparchus, whose calculations of the moon's irregular motion appear to match the mechanism's lunar gear almost exactly. Others point further back, to Archimedes himself, killed by a Roman soldier in 212 BC during the siege of Syracuse, nearly a century and a half before this ship sank. Could this device be one of his creations, or a descendant of his designs, passed down through generations of Greek engineers? We may never know for certain. Whoever built it left no signature, no name, just thousands of microscopic letters describing what the device does and silence about who made it. For over 100 years, all of this remained hidden inside a lump of corroded bronze that almost nobody thought was worth a second look. If that storm off Antikythera had never happened, if those sponge divers had sailed a different route, this machine might still be sitting on the ocean floor today, or lost entirely. Instead, it sits behind glass in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, in dozens of fragments, most of them smaller than a deck of cards. Scientists are still studying it. New details are still emerging from ongoing scans. As recently as the 2020s, researchers have proposed new reconstructions of the machine's front dial, arguing about details of its planetary functions that remain unresolved even today. A 2,000-year-old machine, and we are still trying to fully understand what it does. The Antikythera Mechanism forces an uncomfortable question about how we tell the story of human progress. We like to imagine history as a straight line, simple tools leading steadily to complex ones, each generation building on the last, until we arrive at the technology of today. This machine breaks that line completely. It suggests that somewhere in the ancient world, a level of mechanical ambition existed that we assumed did not arrive until the age of clockmakers and the scientific revolution. And then, for well over 1,000 years, no one matched it again. Not because the knowledge vanished outright, but because it survived only in scattered pieces, quietly, in workshops most of us have never heard of. Civilizations do not always move forward in a straight line. Sometimes they lose things, knowledge fragments, workshops close, skills that took a lifetime to master get passed down incomplete, or not at all, until a chain that once stretched from Greece to Byzantium to Baghdad to a European cathedral finally reconnects centuries later than it should have. Somewhere in the ancient Mediterranean, someone built a machine capable of modeling the heavens with mathematical precision. And then, for reasons we may never fully understand, no one built anything quite that ambitious again for well over 1,000 years. The Antikythera Mechanism sat on the seafloor for 2,000 years, waiting. It took a storm, a crew of sponge divers, and pure chance for it to be found at all. It took another 100 years, and machines its own builders could never have imagined: gamma rays, X-ray tomography, three-dimensional computer modeling, before anyone could finally read the tiny Greek letters hidden inside its gears. We know what it does. We know roughly when it was built. We still do not know who built it, how many like it once existed, or what other knowledge was lost alongside it. Somewhere in the ancient world, someone looked at the motion of the sun, the moon, and the stars and thought, "I can build a machine that does this." They were right. And then for over 1,000 years, no one else could.